Hey there, it's Wendy Sellers, and this is another update on the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible since a lot of information has now been clarified by the Department of Labor, and you can find their questions and answers on their website, which I'll give you the link to. So, for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, this is specific to coronavirus only, effective April 1st and ends December 31st of this year. Employers with under 500 employees must comply or attempt to comply by April 17th. It expands the FMLA for up to 12 weeks for all of these employers with under 499 employees. And it also covers new hires, which previously they had to wait a year to be covered. And again, this is just for the 6 reasons described under this act. The two most important things are that paid leave is now required for some of the reasons, and it should be taken in full day increments unless the person is working remotely from home. For obvious reasons, if they qualify for one of the 6 reasons, we don't want them working in the workplace, even if they are one of the essential employees, because then they're going to get other people sick. This is 80 hours over a 2-week period, except for the child care reason, and that is has a higher cap, financial cap, and it can be intermittent with the employer's permission over 12 weeks. And so there are some exceptions for this. So if you're one of these employers, you can possibly get off this video because you might be accepted for have an exception. Employers under 25 employees do not have to hold a job open for someone who is on FMLA due to COVID. I'd caution when you're doing this because it's hard to find good employees, and really should be going above and beyond at this stage of the game so that when this is all said and done, we can get our great employees back. There are also some exceptions to if you are under 50 employees, but it's only for the extended child care portion. If you go onto the Department of Labor website, they have added more information, but I'll be honest with you, it's not 100% clear yet of where you submit the information. The bottom line is it's about business viability, not necessarily financials, probably financials, definitely not headcount. Clear as mud, I know. There's also exceptions for healthcare providers and emergency responders. They did finally update the Department of Labor information of what that means, and so you can go onto this website here and click around, and towards the end, well, depending on where we're at this point in time, there's, I believe, 79 questions and answers. There it is defined who are healthcare providers and emergency responders. So does this mean that you don't have to comply? It means that you can exclude yourself from complying. If you are a doctor's office of whatever specialty and nobody's coming in and you decide, or people are sick in your office and you decide we're going to close, then you can use the sick and FMLA, the paid sick and FMLA, and you will get the credits, but you don't have to like everyone else does. These are the 6 qualifying reasons for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So if an employee says one of these 6 reasons, then this is where it says, yep, I have to cover them and I have to pay for their leave. And so the first one is, are they subject to an isolation order? Most states are at this point. So there are obviously exceptions for this, because if they are an essential worker and you are open for business and you need them, specifically their position, to be on site, then that there is an exception there. However, many essential employees can work from home remotely, and I definitely encourage you to do that so that we can help prevent the spread of this disease. The second and third one is if the employee has been advised by a health care provider to self-quarantine, possibly get diagnosis. As we know, it's not easy to get a test, so this may take a few days to first find the test and then to get the results back. In the meantime, we want them away from everyone else, and you will be paying them during that time. But don't worry, you will be getting a tax credit back for this. The fourth one is if they are same situation, but they're caring for a member of their family who is under one of these orders. Fifth one is they're caring for a child whose school is closed because of coronavirus. So there's a big extension here, which we will go over. And then the sixth one is not yet defined. So experiencing and other substantially similar conditions. So this is going to probably be a catch-all in case something else comes out of this. So let's go over these reasons real quick. For reasons 1, 2, 3, and 6, so the employee, these are like the employee themselves is experiencing something, including an isolation order. They will get the first 80 hours within 2 weeks. If they say 10 days, but it's more of like it should be 10 days. But if your employee works 14 days straight, then it's 2 weeks. So the first 80 hours that they take off for reasons 1, 2, 3, or 6 will be paid at 100% of their pay. And then an employer will get the tax credit on their quarterly 941 payments. There is an exception for federal agencies. They do not get the tax credit. And then there are caps on this too. So we'll go over that in a minute. For reasons number 4, which the employee is taking care of a family member, son, daughter, spouse, parent, and loco, similar, they will get the first 80 hours paid, but it will be at 67% of their normal pay. So there is a reduction here, and then again, you get the tax credit as well here, except for federal agencies, there will be no tax credit. And then the fifth one, which is the big one, is caring for a child whose school or place of care is closed. This is not just the first 80 hours. It's 1 to 12 weeks paid, and it's also paid at 67%. After the weeks 1 and 2, it can be intermittent. Why would it be intermittent? Well, maybe there are several adult members of the family, 2 members of the family who are taking care of the child. And so, you can definitely change their work hours or allow them to change their work hours to say, hey, I'm going to work earlier in the morning while my spouse is taking care of the child. And then he's going to work or she's going to work while I'm taking care of the child. So the goal here for the Department of Labor is to go above and beyond for your family, for your employees, especially if they can work remotely, so that A, they can work and get things done for you, but B, that you're going above and beyond and they could take care of their child because no one else can because most of the schools are closed. For this one, the employer gets a tax credit for up to 60 days total. And so while there's confusion on this, I'm trying to, dumb this down here that it's 1 to 2 weeks, 12 weeks. It is the first 2 weeks is considered sick leave. The weeks 3 to 12 are considered FMLA leave. And the end, you do have to track them accordingly because they get submitted differently for the tax credit, but they're the same pay. All you need to know right now, unless you are an accountant, is 1 to 12 weeks is paid, and it can be intermittent. So here are the caps. So for the employee themselves being sick or under an isolation order, the caps are $511 per day or $5,110 in aggregate. Again, for those reasons 1, 2, 3, and 6, there's only 80 hours is the cap. Family care reason, also 80 hours. Again, this is not child care. This is taking care of somebody who's been affected by COVID. There is a lower cap there at $200 per day with $2,000 in aggregate. And so again, that would only be for 80 hours in a 2-week period. Child care reason 5 is the big one. It's at $200 per day for a total of $12,000 in aggregate. $2,000 is sick leave, $10,000 is paid FMLA. Specifically for child care, you add them together, $12,000. So this is why it's important to track if it's the first 2 weeks for sick leave and the next 10 weeks for FMLA leave, because you're going to get, you have to record it and submit it differently for the tax credit. And then this is just more information which you can go over on your own, what a full-time employee is. 80 hours, 10 weeks, back-to-back over 2 weeks. Want to note down here, the last one is that the small businesses for under 50 employees might be able to get excluded from. So if you're under 50 employees, you still have to pay if somebody is out on COVID care for themselves or their family. It's the child care reason, the extended child care, the weeks 3 to 12 that you may be able to get an exclusion from. And they have defined that on the Department of Labor website. You probably know this by now, but there are posters that are required. There's different languages as well. So last time I checked, there's English, Spanish, and I believe they added Korean as well. And so continue checking back there because there are always new posters. If you already have people working from home, or even just off because you don't have work and they're not terminated, then I would email them the posters as well. And this is actually part of the requirement to email them to your remote workers so that they know their rights. Essential workers are defined by Homeland Security, and you should provide them a letter to carry in their car in case they get pulled over by law enforcement. You can go to this website right here and download and look through there and see if you are an essential workplace. Just because you are an essential workplace doesn't mean you have to be open. It just means that you can be open. And your local state orders may have additional information on essential workers above and beyond this particular definition. So remember, every state is creating their own rules, so are cities and counties. So a lot of them will overlap as long as they don't, rule each other out. Isolation and quarantine orders are defined here at Health and Human Services. However, I do want to note that they have recently been updated on this website as well, Department of Labor agencies. departmentoflabor.gov/agencies, and there's a lot of information. And in fact, I'm going to click there right now so that you can see all the information. There are fact sheets, really great information, and you can download them in PDFs in English and Spanish. And then this one right here, under the first link under questions and answers, has a lot of information, and they're updating it every single day, it seems. So it started out with a few questions, and I'm going to scroll down real fast and make you a little dizzy here. But you can see as of today, I believe it's the 7th, April 7th, there are now 79 questions. So they may have more questions that come up, but make sure you know this and don't think that they're the only questions, because they keep adding questions and answers, which is great. Other information, unfortunately, is about layoffs and unemployment. If you do have to temporarily lay somebody off, permanently lay them off, furlough them, whatever terminology you're using, please write a letter or an email documenting the situation so that they can then go use that to file for the correct unemployment. And you must also provide the employee with your state unemployment agency information. Sometimes it's just a link to apply. Many of them have created special PDFs just for COVID, but that is a requirement that you send them to the agencies. As we've all heard on the news, all the agencies are overwhelmed. Most of their software systems are not able to handle this, so patience is required. But I definitely would like to say, make sure you encourage your employees to file for unemployment if you do temporarily or permanently lay them off, because this will not affect your employment account, meaning your company will not get charged for this. This is part of the act. So this is literally no cost to you. And in some cases, employees may actually make more money on unemployment temporarily than they would if you were paying them, for work, or if you were trying to, break your own bank to get them paid. Unfortunately, if they are on unemployment, most companies will say, okay, you're not going to be getting benefits, but you can, and that's usually referred to as a furlough. So you're going to need to talk to a professional for that. Federal government, this is the biggest thing right here, this last tab, or second last bullet. Federal government is giving an additional $600 per week to the unemployed individuals through your state agency, even new hires, contractors, and self-employed. So people, and also people who have already used unemployment this year and ran out of credits. They've expanded the weeks, 13 more weeks. So depending on what your state gives, add another 13 weeks. They're going to get federal unemployment of your state if they qualify, plus $600 per week through the end of July. So the quicker they can get into the unemployment, even if it's through paper applications, the better. The one other thing I could say is, again, this is April 7th, is that many states are now outsourcing unemployment claims to federal agencies who, for example, might work with emergency medical systems or emergency management systems. And so help is on the way. We just need to be patient, and please encourage all of your employees, even if they were contractors or they were new hires, and if you have to temporarily or permanently lay them off, because you don't have any work, make sure that you encourage them to file unemployment. Final information here is just some more information for employers. The CARES Act. So the CARES Act they added a lot of information, but I think these are the two most important things. That if you are an employer, you can file for payroll protection program. So this week, your banks are offering systems that you submit payroll information for the past year, get with your bank, they have all the calculations, and you can get a loan for up to 250% of your regular monthly payroll. And there's averages on that and what it includes. And then if you use that money for paying employees, so you either bring back employees or you never let them go and you pay them, you don't have to pay this loan back. And so this is huge, 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 but it is complicated. There's information at this SBA website right here. So I encourage you to go there and then talk to your business bank, because most banks are only dealing with their clients and not taking on new clients for a while. If you're an independent contractor listening to this, or you're self-employed, there is actually payroll protection program for you as well, but that doesn't start until April 10th. And then there's another loan here through the SBA called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This is not the same as the SBA loans that are called bridges. All three of these are actually SBA loans. The first one, the PPP, is an SBA loan, forgivable loan, but it's being managed through the banks. The SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan is an SBA loan, and it's being managed through SBA directly. You can click right on here and get the application. It only takes a few minutes. You do have to know some basic information, such as I think it's revenue and expenses. And you can get a loan up to $25,000, and $10,000 of that is forgiven. You don't need a lot of information here like you usually do with regular loans. It's really, really basic information. You don't need to put your house on the line. You don't need to have good credit. These are things that truly are meant to help you. So please check that out. And if you have any other questions, feel free to call me, email me, message me on LinkedIn, which is probably the best way to find me. I'm on LinkedIn all day checking it. Sometimes in my email it goes to junk, so I don't always get that. And then, of course, I have a blog as well, which I'm trying my best to post all information for employers. Again, good luck. Stay safe.